You are your own worst investment advisor, and it's costing you millions. You'll spend $4 on coffee every day without thinking twice, but you won't spend $40 on a book that could change your life. You'll pay for insurance on your car, your house, and your phone, but you won't invest in ensuring your future by developing yourself. You'll research every purchase over $50, but you won't research how to increase your income. You'll spend hours comparing prices to save $10, but you won't spend 10 minutes learning a skill that could earn you $10,000. The same person who demands a return on every dollar they invest in the stock market refuses to calculate the return on investing in themselves. And that's why they'll remain average while others become extraordinary. There was a man in South Africa who lived his entire life struggling to make ends meet. Every morning, he would walk across his small piece of land, complaining about his poverty, cursing his circumstances, and wondering why life had dealt him such a difficult hand. For 47 years, he scraped by, barely surviving on that same piece of property that his grandfather had left him. He sold vegetables from a small garden, fixed bicycles in his spare time, and dreamed of a better life that seemed forever out of reach. One day, exhausted by the constant struggle, he decided he had had enough. He sold his property to a young entrepreneur for what seemed like a fair price and moved to the city, hoping to find better opportunities. The new owner, curious about the land he had just purchased, decided to dig a well for fresh water. As his workers dug deeper and deeper, they struck something unusual. What they found changed everything. Beneath that same ground where the previous owner had walked for nearly 5 decades was one of the richest diamond deposits ever discovered in that region. The man who had lived there for 47 years had been walking on millions of dollars worth of diamonds every single day. Yet he died poor in the city, never knowing what was beneath his feet. But here's what makes this story even more powerful. The diamonds weren't deep underground. They were just 3 feet below the surface. 3 feet. That's the distance between poverty and prosperity. 3 feet between struggle and abundance. 3 feet between desperation and financial freedom. Now, you might be thinking this is just another story about missed opportunities or bad luck. But I want you to understand something profound here. This story isn't really about diamonds in the ground. It's about the diamond that's inside of you right now. It's about the treasure that you've been walking on, sleeping on, sitting on every single day of your life. It's about the potential that's been buried just beneath the surface of your conscious awareness, waiting for you to dig just a little deeper. Most people live their entire lives like that man in South Africa. They complain about their circumstances. They blame their environment. They curse their situation. But they never stop to realize that everything they need to transform their life is already within their reach. They're looking for opportunities in distant places while walking on the greatest opportunity of their lifetime, themselves. You see? The tragedy of human existence isn't that we don't have what it takes to succeed. The tragedy is that we don't recognize what we already have. We don't invest in what's already ours. We spend our lives searching for external solutions to internal capabilities. We look for someone else to give us what we already possess. We wait for permission to use gifts that were installed in us before we were born, right now. As you sit there listening to these words, you are carrying within yourself capabilities, talents, ideas, solutions, and possibilities that could transform not just your life, but the lives of countless others. But just like those diamonds that were 3 feet underground, your potential is buried beneath layers of doubt, fear, excuses, and limiting beliefs that society has programmed into your mind. Think about this for a moment. Every single breakthrough that has ever changed the world came from someone who decided to dig deeper into themselves. Every invention, every innovation, every solution to every problem that has ever plagued humanity came from a person who refused to accept surface-level thinking and decided to mine the depths of their own potential. The Wright brothers didn't have a degree in aviation. There was no such thing. They had a bicycle shop. But they had something more valuable than formal education. They had an unwavering belief that the solution to human flight was within their reach, and they were willing to invest everything they had into making it happen. They invested their time, their money, their reputation, and their energy into developing what was already inside them. Thomas Edison didn't succeed because he had access to resources that others didn't have. He succeeded because he understood that his mind was his greatest asset. And he invested in it relentlessly. When people called him crazy for trying to invent the light bulb, he didn't argue with them. He just kept investing in his ideas, in his experiments, in his vision of what was possible. Here's what I need you to understand. You have been equipped with everything necessary to live an extraordinary life. You didn't come into this world empty-handed. You came loaded with potential. You came programmed with purpose. You came installed with incredible capabilities that are waiting for your investment to activate them. But here's the problem. We've been conditioned to believe that success comes from external sources. We think we need someone else to give us a break. We think we need the right connections, the right background, the right circumstances. We think we need permission from others to become who we're meant to be. And while we're waiting for external validation and external opportunities, the greatest opportunity of our lifetime is sitting right between our ears, unused and underdeveloped. The most successful people in the world aren't necessarily the most talented. They're not necessarily the most educated. They're not necessarily the ones who started with the most advantages. They're the ones who recognized that they were their greatest asset and decided to invest in themselves accordingly. They understood that personal development isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. They understood that growth isn't automatic, it's intentional. Your potential is like those diamonds. It's valuable beyond measure. But it won't transform your life until you're willing to dig for it. It won't change your circumstances until you're willing to invest the time, energy, and resources necessary to bring it to the surface. The question isn't whether you have what it takes. The question is whether you're willing to invest in what you already have. Now let me tell you about two young men who graduated from the same high school on the same day. They both came from similar backgrounds. Both had average grades. Both had the same opportunities ahead of them. But what happened next separated their destinies forever. The first young man, let's call him Marcus, got his first paycheck from his entry-level job and immediately went out and bought the latest smartphone, expensive clothes, and started going out every weekend. He spent his money on things that made him look successful, but didn't make him more valuable. Every month, like clockwork. Marcus would spend his entire paycheck on temporary pleasures and material possessions that depreciated the moment he bought them. The second young man, David, took that same first paycheck and did something different. He bought 3 books on communication skills, enrolled in a weekend computer course, and started putting aside $50 every month, not for material things, but for what he called his future self fund. While Marcus was buying things, David was buying knowledge. While Marcus was investing in his appearance, David was investing in his capabilities. 5 years later, Marcus was still at the same job with the same salary, still living paycheck to paycheck, but now with a closet full of outdated clothes and credit card debt. David, however, had been promoted 3 times, started his own side business, and was earning more in a month than Marcus made in 3 months. The difference wasn't luck. The difference wasn't connections. The difference was a simple understanding that David had and Marcus didn't. You are your greatest asset, and like any asset, your value increases only when you invest in it. Here's what most people don't understand about money and success. The best investment you can ever make is not in real estate, not in stocks, not in gold or cryptocurrency. The best investment you can ever make is in yourself. Why? Because everything else can be taken away from you. But what you invest in yourself becomes part of who you are. Knowledge can't be stolen. Skills can't be repossessed. Character can't be foreclosed upon. Wisdom doesn't depreciate. But here's the tragedy. We live in a society that has taught us to invest in everything except ourselves. We'll spend thousands of dollars on a car that loses value the moment we drive it off the lot. But we won't spend $100 on a course that could increase our earning potential for the rest of our lives. We'll buy insurance for our houses, our cars, our phones, but we won't invest in insuring our future by developing ourselves. Think about this mathematically. If you earn $50,000 a year and you invest just 1% of that, $500 in developing yourself annually, and that investment helps you increase your income by just 10% each year, in 10 years you'll be earning over $129,000 annually. That $500 annual investment in yourself will have generated an additional $79,000 in yearly income. That's a return of 15,800% on your investment. But the mathematics go deeper than just money. When you invest in yourself, you don't just increase your earning potential, you increase your impact potential. You become more valuable to your family, your community, your profession. You become a solution to problems that others can't solve. You become a resource that others need. The problem is that most people have been programmed with what I call poverty thinking about themselves. They'll say, I can't afford to take that course, but they can afford to buy coffee every day for a year. They'll say, I don't have time to read, but they have time to watch television for 3 hours every evening. They'll say, I'm too old to learn something new, but they're not too old to complain about their situation for the next 20 years. Here's what you must understand. Every successful person in history became successful by becoming more valuable. They didn't wait for their circumstances to change. They changed themselves and their circumstances followed. They understood that their income would never exceed their personal development. They understood that their success would never rise above their self-investment. You see, when you invest in stocks, you're betting on someone else's ability to create value. When you invest in real estate, you're betting on market conditions you can't control. But when you invest in yourself, you're betting on the one person whose behavior, decisions, and development you have complete control over. You're investing in an asset that works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, your mind, your skills, your character, your potential. The return on investment in yourself isn't just financial, it's exponential. It affects every area of your life simultaneously. Let me tell you about Maria Gonzalez. She was a night janitor at a major corporation, working from midnight to 8 in the morning, cleaning offices while everyone else slept. But Maria understood something that most people in her position didn't understand. She realized that while she was cleaning those offices, she had access to something more valuable than the paycheck she was earning. She had access to the discarded knowledge in those trash cans. Every night, Maria would collect the business magazines, reports, and training materials that executives had thrown away. She would take them home and study them during her breaks. She started listening to business podcasts while she cleaned. She used her lunch breaks to watch online courses on her phone. Within 2 years, Maria had acquired more practical business knowledge than many people with expensive MBA degrees. But Maria didn't stop there. She began applying what she learned. She started a small cleaning business on weekends. Using the business principles she had studied, she implemented the marketing strategies she had learned from those discarded magazines. Within 5 years, Maria had built a cleaning company with 47 employees and was earning more than many of the executives whose offices she used to clean. The difference between Maria and every other janitor in that building wasn't opportunity. They all had the same access to the same discarded materials. The difference was that Maria understood how to systematically invest in herself. And she had a plan. Your self-investment must be systematic, not random. You can't just read a book here, take a course there, and expect transformation. You need a blueprint. Your personal development must be as intentional as your physical development. Just as you wouldn't go to a gym and randomly lift weights without a plan, you can't develop yourself without a strategic approach. First, invest in your mind. Your mind is the control center of your life. Everything you accomplish will first be created in your mind before it becomes reality. Read books that challenge your thinking. Listen to content that expands your perspective. Surround yourself with ideas that are bigger than your current circumstances. Spend at least 30 minutes every day feeding your mind something that makes you more valuable than you were yesterday. Second, invest in your skills in today's economy. Your skills are your security. The person with the most valuable skills will always have the most opportunities. Identify the skills that are most valued in your field and become excellent at them. But don't stop there. Also develop skills that complement your strengths and make you irreplaceable. Learn something new every month. Master something new every year. Third, invest in your health. Your body is the vehicle that carries your dreams. You can have the greatest ideas in the world, but if your body breaks down, your dreams break down with it. Physical energy directly affects mental energy. When you feel good physically, you think better, you perform better, you make better decisions. Exercise isn't vanity, it's an investment in your capacity to achieve everything else you want to accomplish. Fourth, invest in your relationships. Success is not a solo sport. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. Invest in building genuine connections with people who inspire you, challenge you, and support your growth. Find mentors who have achieved what you want to achieve. Become a mentor to others who are following the path you've already walked. Here's your practical framework. Allocate your time like a wise investor allocates money. Spend 1 hour every day on personal development. That's 7 hours per week, 365 hours per year. In 5 years, you'll have invested over 1,800 hours in becoming a better version of yourself. That's equivalent to a full year of formal education. Except this education is specifically designed by you, or you, to achieve your specific goals. The compound effect of consistent daily investment in yourself will transform your life in ways that seem impossible from where you're sitting right now. But right now, I can hear some of you saying, this sounds great, but you don't understand my situation. I don't have time for all this self-development. I'm working 2 jobs just to pay the bills. I barely have time to sleep, let alone read books and take courses. Let me tell you about someone who thought the same thing. Her name was Patricia Williams, a single mother of 3 children working at a fast food restaurant during the day and cleaning offices at night. Patricia was exhausted, overwhelmed, and convinced that personal development was a luxury she couldn't afford. She would say, I don't have time to better myself. I'm too busy surviving. But one day, Patricia realized something that changed everything. She calculated that she spent 45 minutes every day commuting to and from her jobs. That's 5.5 hours per week of what she called dead time. Instead of listening to music or letting her mind wander, Patricia started listening to audiobooks during her commute. She borrowed them free from the library when she couldn't afford to buy them. In 6 months, Patricia had consumed more knowledge about business, finance, and personal development than she had in the previous 10 years. That knowledge gave her an idea for a catering business that she could run from her home kitchen within 2 years. She had quit both of her jobs and was earning more from her catering business than she had from working 60 hours a week for someone else. Patricia discovered what millions of people haven't figured out yet. You don't find time to invest in yourself. You make time. You don't wait for convenient circumstances. You use the circumstances you have. The busiest, most successful people in the world find time for personal development because they understand that it's not an addition to their responsibilities. It's the foundation that makes everything else possible. Here's the truth about the I don't have time excuse. You have the same 24 hours that every successful person has ever had. The difference isn't the amount of time available. It's how you choose to use it. You have time for what you prioritize. If personal development isn't happening in your life, it's not because you don't have time. It's because you haven't made it a priority. Then there's the money excuse. I can't afford to invest in myself. But this thinking is backwards. The question isn't whether you can afford to invest in yourself. The question is whether you can afford not to. The cost of remaining the same is always greater than the cost of growing. The price of staying where you are is higher than the price of moving forward. You can get a library card for free and access thousands of books. audiobooks, and online courses. You can find free educational content on the internet that's better than what people paid thousands of dollars for just 10 years ago. You can find mentors, join discussion groups, and access training materials without spending a single dollar. The resources are available. The question is whether you'll use them. But here's the biggest obstacle of all: fear. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of what others will think. Fear of discovering that you're capable of more than you're currently achieving, because then you'll have to take responsibility for the gap between where you are and where you could be. Most people are more afraid of their potential than they are of their problems. They're more comfortable with familiar struggles than unfamiliar possibilities. They choose the certainty of limitation over the uncertainty of growth. But you must understand this: the risk of remaining the same is greater than the risk of changing. 23 years ago, there was a man named Robert Chen who immigrated to America with nothing but a suitcase, $300, and a dream that seemed impossible to everyone who knew his circumstances. He couldn't speak English fluently, had no connections, no job prospects, and no understanding of how business worked in his new country. Most people would have seen these as insurmountable obstacles. Robert saw them as his starting point. Every morning at 5 a.m., before his factory job began, Robert would spend 2 hours in the public library. He studied English grammar, read business magazines, and copied down vocabulary words in a notebook that he carried everywhere. During his lunch breaks, he would practice conversations with his co-workers, asking them to correct his pronunciation. In the evenings, after working 10-hour shifts, he would watch the news and business programs, writing down phrases he didn't understand and looking them up later. But Robert's investment in himself went beyond language. He observed everything around him with the curiosity of a scientist. He noticed that his co-workers complained about the same problems every day, but never sought solutions. He noticed that small businesses in his neighborhood struggled with basic marketing and customer service. He noticed opportunities that others walked past without seeing. Within 18 months, Robert's English had improved dramatically, but more importantly, his understanding of business principles had grown exponentially. He started offering translation services to other immigrants in his spare time. Then he began helping small businesses in his community create simple marketing materials. Each service he provided taught him something new about entrepreneurship, customer needs, and problem solving. 3 years after arriving with nothing, Robert had saved enough money to start his own small translation and consulting business. But he didn't stop investing in himself. He enrolled in evening business classes at the community college. He joined networking groups where he was often the only non-in-paper English speaker. He read every business book he could find, often having to look up multiple words per page, but persisting because he understood that his education was his pathway to freedom. 5 years later, Robert's business had grown to employ 12 people. 10 years later, he owned 3 businesses and was generating multiple streams of income. 15 years after arriving with $300, Robert sold his main business for $7.2 million and started an investment fund that now manages over $50 million in assets. But here's what makes Robert's story truly extraordinary. It wasn't just his financial life that transformed. His investment in himself created a ripple effect that changed everything around him. His children grew up watching their father demonstrate that learning never stops, that challenges are opportunities, and that personal development is the foundation of success. They excelled in school not because he pressured them, but because they had witnessed firsthand the power of continuous growth. Robert's success enabled him to sponsor 15 other immigrants through their transition to America, providing them with the mentorship and support he wished he had received. His businesses created jobs in his community. His story inspired dozens of others to believe that their circumstances didn't determine their destiny. This is what happens when you truly invest in yourself. You don't just change your own life, you become a catalyst for transformation in the lives of everyone around you. Your growth creates opportunities for others. Your success becomes a platform for service. Your development becomes a gift to the world. But Robert's transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened because he understood three fundamental truths that most people never grasp. First, he understood that his current circumstances were not his permanent address. Where you are is not where you have to stay. Your present situation is simply information, not your identity. Robert could have looked at his situation and decided that success wasn't possible for someone like him. Instead, he looked at successful people and decided to learn what they knew and do what they did. Second, Robert understood that every expert was once a beginner. Every successful person started exactly where he was, not knowing what they needed to know. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't natural talent or lucky breaks. It's the willingness to invest in yourself when you don't feel like it, when it's inconvenient, when the results aren't immediately visible. Third, Robert understood that personal development is not selfish, it's necessary. When you become the best version of yourself, you have more to offer your family, your community, and the world. You can't give what you don't have. You can't teach what you don't know. You can't lead where you haven't been. Your responsibility is not just to yourself, it's to everyone whose life you have the potential to impact. Right now, at this very moment, you have a choice to make. You can continue living the same life you've been living, getting the same results you've been getting, facing the same limitations you've been facing. Or you can decide that today is the day you begin the most important investment you'll ever make. The investment in yourself. Your potential is not negotiable. It's not up for debate. It exists whether you acknowledge it or not, whether you develop it or not, whether you believe in it or not. But your potential becomes powerful only when you invest in it. It becomes profitable only when you develop it. It becomes meaningful only when you use it to serve something greater than yourself. The person you are today is not the person you have to be tomorrow. The limitations you've accepted are not the limitations you have to live with forever. The dreams you've buried are not dead. They're waiting for your investment to resurrect them. The time for excuses is over. The time for delay is finished. The time for waiting for perfect circumstances has expired. Your moment is now. Your opportunity is here. Your potential is calling. Don't you dare leave this earth with your music still inside you. Don't you dare waste the incredible gift of your mind, your abilities, your possibilities. Don't you dare rob the world of what you could become by remaining who you are. The greatest investment you will ever make is in yourself. The greatest return you will ever receive is the person you become in the process. Start today. Start now. Your future self is depending on it. And the world is waiting for what you have to offer.